Hi, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Sridhar Kalyanasundaram, consultant neonatologist and pediatrician. We had recently reviewed a case-based discussion on hypernatremia, and we didn't discuss in detail about the actual correction of hypernatremia. So in this video, we will be discussing the approach to correction of hypernatremia in neonates. This is a very challenging topic as there is very little evidence base available. So we have to use a common sense approach guided by do no harm first principle as well. So neonatal hypernatremia is excessive weight loss beyond 10% of the birth weight. It occurs in approximately 15% of the exclusively breastfed infants. Around 1/3 of these babies with excess weight loss may be hypernatremic. Obviously, the higher the weight loss, the higher the risk of hypernatremia. You should also remember that there are some mothers who produce excess sodium in their breast milk, and here the dehydration may not be that evident. So if the baby is irritable for unexplained reasons in the neonatal period, you may consider doing the sodium as well. So I would refer you to watch my earlier video to have a clear idea of the risk factors and so on, because I will not be going through them again here. Serum sodium more than 150 in term neonates is classically associated with insufficient lactation, and in the previous video we discussed the various factors that we need to consider regarding this. What is the reason we are worried about hypernatremia? In the mild cases, we may not have any symptoms. We may have irritability, we may have a slight increase in body temperature, but in the more severe cases you may have seizures due to the brain injury, acute renal injury due to the dehydration, cerebral thrombosis, and hemorrhage as well. The incidence is not clearly defined. Obviously, it depends largely on the extent to which the feeding is supported in a particular unit. It may not happen that often in the rural areas because the feeding comes more naturally there. The breastfeeding establishing the support in the family is much more there. In the cities, if the hospitals do not support the breastfeeding, you are more likely to face these problems. Incidence may be anywhere from 0.5 to 2% of deliveries. Besides the complications of the condition itself, re-establishment of plasma tonicity, if you don't do it properly, it might lead to serious damage as well. The use of hypotonic fluids is appropriate to dilute the serum sodium because you have a free water deficit, but the exact tonicity of the fluid to use and the rate at which you use it should be very carefully titrated because cerebral edema may develop if it is done too rapidly. So this is a systematic review I came across on the topic, and some of the next slides will be from that. The maximum rate of serum sodium reduction, all of us agree that it shouldn't surpass 0.5 milliequivalent. The maximum is 1 milliequivalent per liter per hour, especially if it's not too high. The higher the sodium is, the slower the rate of decrease should be. There is no randomized clinical trial focusing on the treatment of hypernatremia in term neonates. There are no clear guidelines as to which extent hypernatremic dehydration may be corrected by exclusively increasing the oral feeds, which is the safest option in the milder ones, when the parental fluids are indicated. So anytime you decide to use parental fluids, you need close monitoring, and which parental solution is appropriate to avoid excessive serum sodium correction. So we'll be looking at some of these factors, and again I stress that the evidence base is very weak, so you have to individualize the approach. This is a summary of the studies that they have used in the meta-analysis, and they had 64 studies of which they chose 9, and 149 term babies. This was the biggest group. They treated with a combination graded approach, IV fluids, oral, or both. And we have the other studies. The serum sodium ranges from 150 to 190 in the most of the studies, and some studies have a higher range. The weight loss range from 11 to 20% in most of them, as you can see, and the presentation was variable. So we have different groups, different approaches. Some of them use only IV fluid. The most severe ones had used peritoneal dialysis as well, and combination of oral and IV was used in a few of them. So hypernatremia leads to an efflux of fluid from the intra to the extracellular compartment with transient cell shrinkage and cerebral volume decrease. When it is chronically established more than 1 to 3 days, in this instance, most of the newborns with hypernatremic dehydration come in this category because they don't present acutely. It's a dehydration over 2 to 3 days of insufficient breastfeeding. So there is an increased production of the idiogenic osmoles, which help to restore the brain volume. When there is rapid correction with excessively hypertonic fluids, there may be brain edema because the brain is not able to remove these idiogenic osmoles that quickly. So this was illustrated in the previous presentation as well. It's an important concept, so I'm repeating it. So in the normal state, we have an equal amount of water and sodium. In the acute hypernatremic state, both water and sodium are out of the cell, so the brain volume decreases. Over time, over 1 to 3 days, the idiogenic osmoles form, which bring the water back into the cells and bring the cell size back to normal, even though the intracellular sodium is still low. If you have rapid rehydration, the osmolarity of the fluids extravascularly drops, and because of the presence of these idiogenic osmoles, they are not able to leave the cell that quickly, get more free water. So this leads to cerebral edema with its obvious negative effects. So the management of hypernatremia is performed in 2 phases. There is an emergency phase with the aim of restoring intravascular volume rather. So this is mainly in babies who have features of shock. There is a rehydration phase with the aim of correcting serum sodium with an appropriate rate. So where the extent of dehydration is very severe, you go for the bolus, but where the child is stable, it's safer not to use the bolus if you can. And the purpose of the emergent phase is to restore the intravascular volume with an isotonic solution as soon as possible. In most of the instances where the sodium is below 175 or so, this is safely carried out by using normal saline, 10 to 20 ml per kilo. So in the severe hypernatremia more than 175 to 180, even normal saline is not isotonic, and it is relatively hypotonic, as we will see later. So we need to add 3% sodium chloride in a proportion to clear the free water and make it more isotonic. So if you need a bolus in the severe hypernatremia, you may need to concentrate the sodium a little more in normal saline. So shock occurs relatively late in hypernatremia because intravascular volume is relatively preserved. So this is one important factor to know. We should assess for signs of intracellular dehydration and neurological dysfunction like lethargy, irritability, a doughy feel to the skin. Ataxia, tremor, hyperreflexia, seizures, and reduced coma score may happen as well. The measurement of weight loss will give the most reliable estimate of the degree of dehydration. The only exception is the cases where the milk is already high in sodium. I came across the New Zealand Child and Youth Clinical Network's guideline, which is very clearly framed and it is sensible. And I have given the reference here. I will put it in the info below the video as well, so you can review. The following slides will be based on that guideline. And in terms of management of neonatal hypernatremia, we have a combination, the enteral fluid replacement or maintenance with breast milk. Most of the cases will need formula to some extent till the breast milk is more available. So it will be a combination of breast milk and formula. You should support the breastfeeding. She should encourage the mother to take breast milk at the same time. So you can come off the formula at the earliest. So in most babies below 170 millimoles, this is the most sensible approach. And in the case we had, which I presented in the previous presentation, the sodium was 172 and I used a combination of breast milk and IV fluids, with majority being the feeds. Hypernatremia more than or equal to 170 is a medical emergency, so we should consider admitting to the NICU or PICU as appropriate for your setting. The calculation of the deficit is based on the percent dehydration, as we discussed. So suppose we have a 10% weight loss, that's a 10% dehydration. If you have a 15% weight loss, it's a 15% dehydration because you're starting from the birth weight. In the context of treating moderate to severe hypernatremia, when we talk of maintenance, we're not talking of maintenance as per the standard textbooks. It's based on a cap of 100 ml per kilo per day for both enteral and IV fluid. So please remember this, we are not talking of 150 ml per kilo for day 4 and so on. So this is capped at 100 ml per kilo. The reason is you don't want to exceed it, and most of the time the total fluid that the baby needs to be safely reducing will be around 150 ml per kilo, including the free water deficit. So if you give too much of maintenance feeds, you will be erring and then the sodium may drop fast, which you don't want. So always be on the side of caution, measure the sodium response and then titrate accordingly. In terms of moderate hypernatremic dehydration below 170, so 150 to 170, actually 150 to 160, you just need to focus on the feeding, and 160 and above is where we need serious input. 160 and above, you would say enteral fluid replacement with breast milk or formula. And after the initial resuscitation, if they need anything, replace the fluid over 48 hours in addition to the ongoing maintenance fluid. So the maintenance fluid, as I said, is capped at 100 ml per kilo per day. You can administer breast milk or formula by 2 to 3 hourly bolus feeds, either orally if the baby is neurologically normal and sucking, or by tube feeds. And the enteral fluid intake must be prescribed and regulated carefully. Baby needs to be monitored if it's more than 160, so we can watch for any abnormalities. If the serum sodium falls too rapidly, more than 0.5 millimoles per liter per hour, then slow down the rate by cutting the feeds by 20% or change to IV fluids to more slowly regulate. I'm not sure about how changing to fluids will regulate it better, but obviously you have to slow down the rate of fluid. The IV fluid option, you can use normal saline with 5 or 10% dextrose in the initial phase, and as the sodium starts improving, you can use a more hypotonic fluid. We may need to add potassium or titrate the glucose concentration depending on further results. We should check the urea and electrolytes, mainly the sodium and the glucose, hourly for the first 2 hours, so you know the trend of fall, and then you can do it too early until 6 hours. If after 6 hours the sodium is decreasing, you can check every 4 hourly. If serum sodium is falling faster than 1 millimole per liter per hour averaged over 6 hours, we should seek specialist advice to how to slow down this rate of decrease. The more severe category, where it is more than 170 millimoles, definitely needs admission to the NICU or PICU, and the IV fluids are necessary in this case in the initial phase, so you may need a fluid correction as well. So the normal saline with glucose added is a correction fluid. We may add potassium or titrate the glucose depending on further results. After the initial resuscitation, aim to replace the deficit over 72 to 96 hours. So this is slower. Again, you have to titrate closely. Maintain the strict fluid balance. Urinary catheterization is likely to be needed again. That will guide you in the fluid management. This close observation of the neurological status, as if the seizures happen during the correction, you will need to correct with hypertonic saline. You check the glucose and urea and electrolytes hourly, and if serum sodium is falling more rapidly than 1 millimole per liter, seek appropriate specialist advice. Repeat the weight 6 hourly initially as well, so it gives you an idea of how quickly you are correcting in addition to the sodium measurement. If there are seizures or other signs of cerebral edema, recheck the serum sodium urgently, and you may need 3% hypertonic saline to partially reverse the reduction in serum sodium. So this is a very tricky step and it's very complicated, so please seek specialist advice. And the seizures may also happen due to sinus venous thrombosis or cerebral infarction. I have seen one child who presented with sinus venous thrombosis and needed a shunt later on due to hydrocephalus developing. We should consider a contrast CT scan in such situations. Where it is more than 180 millimoles per liter, you may consider peritoneal dialysis if the facility is available. If you don't have the facility, careful titration, as we discussed, is important. However, we should remember that the sodium needs to be added to the normal saline to make it a little more closer to isotonicity, because in this baby, even the normal saline will be hypotonic. Neonates with more severe hypernatremia are the ones at greater risk of severe adverse effects of treatment. However, it's not possible to predict solely by the basis of degree of hypernatremia, because if you drop the sodium too rapidly, even the lower levels, you may cause damage. The estimation of free water deficit, which takes into consideration the lean body weight and the desired serum sodium, can be used to calculate the amount of fluid necessary to correct the serum sodium. So this is one example where the total body water can be taken as weight in grams times 0.8. So this is again an area of contention, because 0.8 is in the smaller babies. If the baby is bigger, it's 0.7, and if the baby has lost 10% body weight, it will be 0.6, because it's a fluid that is lost. So it's always better to be erring on the side of caution. So you might use 0.7 or 0.6 in the acute stages, and once it starts improving, you can change the formula. So as you can see, this comes to 7 ml per hour if you use this formula, and another rough estimate is 4 ml per kilo free water to decrease sodium by 1 milliequivalent. So if your correction is needing 20 milliequivalent, like if the sodium is 160 and you're aiming for 140, you can use this. Here again, erring on the side of caution, you could use 150 instead of 160 to correct it, and when you measure the serum sodium, you see the drop, then you titrate accordingly. So it's very important to be slow in the correction. So you do need to give some free water, but don't overdo it, and these corrections may overdo it if you use the same approach, so be slow. So there is a study from Iran which looked at a normal practical equation for treatment, and this is where the stress on why when there is a very high serum sodium, even normal saline is not isotonic. So in a normal baby, normal saline is isotonic, but as the serum sodium starts increasing, if the serum sodium is 145, for example, normal saline is isotonic. But here we have normal saline 79% isotonic and 21% is free water. So for this 21%, we may need to add an additional 5 ml or so of 3% saline to the normal saline solution to make it approach the isotonicity. So in the acute phase, especially if you're needing a bolus, for example, in these babies, or in the initial phase of correction, you would need to concentrate the normal saline with a little more of sodium. So this is why you need to be careful when it comes to the more severe hypernatremia. So actually we have the formula here. The free water percentage is equal to 1 minus the IV fluid sodium by serum sodium times 100. So this is important to watch. So the tonicity of the fluid used to correct the water deficit should be tailored according to the severity of the hypernatremia. And as I said, according to the more severe, you may even need to concentrate the normal saline more, and as it improves, you can go to the half normal saline with 5% dextrose. Normally I don't go below that, but some people have used 1/5 saline with dextrose as well, as the sodium starts coming below 150. Slow correction with a mix of oral and IV fluids is probably safer, but in any case you have to closely monitor the rate of drop and adjust the volume accordingly. In very severe hypernatremia, please remember even normal saline is hypotonic, as we mentioned. Convulsion in a baby with hypernatremic dehydration, we discussed earlier that it could be due to a rapid drop in sodium and should be treated with 3% saline. So to conclude, we should have a careful calculation to ensure slow correction. We should ensure that the whole team understands the importance of slow correction, the need for repeated sodium levels, and where possible, feeds alone or feeds with part IV fluid with careful monitoring should be used, and we could switch to feeds at the earliest possible as well. And revise the fluid use depending on the rate of drop, starting with isotonic, then gradually reducing as needed. And please don't keep repeating the sodium. Once we drop below 150 and the baby is reasonably hydrated, maintain the hydration, but no need to keep monitoring the sodium beyond that range, because you're in a safe zone. So I hope this is useful, and please do share this very important information. Thank you.